queen is dead. Her crown lays shattered across the marble floor of the great hall. The kingdom of Lektok trembles. In the power vacuum, one toad rises, King Mortimus. With his iron tongue and army of loyalists, he has seized the throne. But in the shadows of the realms, factions stir, leaders rise, and a single question echoes across the realm of Lektok. Who will lead the revolt? Today we're diving into Revolt. Revolt is an indie storytelling RPG by Jason Price and published by Always Checkers Publishing. I found out about this game when another member of the RPG Academy had me over to his house to play RPGs, and he brought out Revolt, and I immediately fell in love. I mean, there's a Toad King, and he's ruling over insect factions in this. It's a card-driven storytelling game, so, I mean, who wouldn't be hooked? So, what is this RPG about? Well, Revolt is a GM-less fantasy political drama, and it's set in the realm of Lektok, which has fallen under the tyrannical control of King Mortimus, the Toad King. You can obviously set whatever tone you want when you run the RPG, but it kind of lends itself to playing Game of Thrones meets A Bug's Life. Instead of playing an individual character, every player represents a faction, and all these factions are brought together by a shared creed, and they all have their own specified leader. For whatever reason, your faction is fed up with the Toad King, and you, throughout the course of the game, will work either together with other factions at the table or individually working against other factions to take control and revolt against the Toad King. One of the things that makes this game unique is it is completely GM-less. Nobody has to sit and run the game. Everybody's on the exact same level footing, and you all build the story together. Second, it uses a combination of cards and a map to drive the storytelling. And one of the coolest things with it is it has sort of this legacy mode, continuing storyline, where you can start by one faction, overthrowing Mortimus, the Toad King. And then if you hold on to the results of that playthrough, you can then play another game where whatever faction just won becomes the new faction that everybody's trying to revolt against. Usually when I talk about an RPG, I talk about what kind of characters you can create when playing the game. But in this specific instance, you don't really create anything. All of the factions in the game are completely fleshed out. They have their own leader. They have their own faction name. They have their creed that will help you sort of roleplay what the faction stands for or represents. And then after getting this information, the rest of it is really up to you. The heart of the game has to do with prompt cards, and these cards contain a little bit of flavor text and a question that when you draw it, you are supposed to answer as your faction or on behalf of your faction. There is nothing that says you pass or fail. You just answer the question, and collectively you build the story. Conflicts and challenges in the game don't require any sort of chance or luck. It's all based around how well you can tell a story. So when a card presents some sort of challenge, you just answer it narratively. The game progresses through 4 main acts: struggles, rumors, preparations, and finally the revolt. With each act building more and more on the narrative you and your players have already established. Revolt can be used to tell stories about rebellion, political intrigue, moral compasses, power and the people who want it, or even the price of ruling a kingdom. Because everyone shares world-building duties, the map really becomes like living history, all to do with your specific revolt that you play. I think people who love collaborative storytelling, or maybe just storytelling in general, would really get a lot out of this game. Also, people who like GM-less style games, where there's not one person who's tasked with dealing with all of the minutia of the rules. And the game also has a solo play mode, so if you can't find other people to play with, it's still a great thing that you can have. But if you're somebody who likes really mechanical combat or really crunchy details, this game may not be for you. That being said, the game is very, very beginner friendly. All of the information you need is held within the cards themselves, and you don't have to worry about mechanics or dice rolls or doing math or anything like that. A standard game of Revolt generally can get wrapped up in one session, and that takes about 1 to 2 hours depending on how many cards you like to play. A few times when we've played, we've had not a lot of time, so we've just limited ourselves all to 1 card per section, where I think it's 2 or 3 it wants you to do as you go around. It might change on the number of players as well. The book itself is only about 75 pages long, with most of the back half of it just sort of telling you what's in the cards already. So if you have the physical thing, then really the only first 20 pages of the book really matters. If you have the digital version, then obviously you'll want the second half to make yourself the cards. The art in the book is really cool. It's just a bunch of like hand-drawn, black and white, insect and toad people. You can also, with the physical version, get a cloth map. It includes the paper map as well, but this map is used when playing the game and moving your faction to different areas of the map. And every time you move that meeple on the map, you have to draw another card to describe something about that specific location on the map. What I personally love about it is how simple it is, and it's just fun to sit around and collectively tell a story, and the kind of story you tell is always going to change based on who you play it with. When we played with the people from the RPG Academy, it was very violent and, a bloody revolt. Whereas when I played it at home with my wife and my kids, it was a little more goofy and lighthearted, which is a lot of fun. Some drawbacks to this game is the story-only games. They rely heavily on player engagement, and so it's not going to be great for groups that don't have strong storytellers or role players, because it's going to require them to talk a lot, think on the fly a lot, and answer those questions a lot. If you want to pick up the game, you can check the description. I'll put the links to that down below. I obviously have the physical version, which I highly recommend, but there's also the PDF version as well. I would recommend this game to people who think story should be first, to people who love GM-less games, to groups who want low prep but high impact storytelling. And to sum it up in one sentence, I would say Revolt is a simple, GM-less, dice-less RPG that uses cards to drive a narrative story about revolting against a monarchy. So, do you think Revolt is the kind of game you're into? If so, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, from us here at the RPG Academy, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. Thanks for watching.